Welcome to episode 2 of GearGeek.com, the interview series. My name is Matt. I'm joined by my co host, Zach, and of course, our next guest, which so happens to be Luke Hunter from the Des Moines Buccaneers. He is the head equipment manager. Luke, how you doing? Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Matt and Zach. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, so it's good that we've exchanged DMs over the last couple of years now, I guess we
Yeah,
could say. So it's going to be fun to have the perspective of an equipment manager. And you're our obviously our first equipment manager here on the show.
yeah, I'm like super excited to be on. I loved episode one, so I know some of the boys watched it too, so I'm excited.
That's awesome. So yeah, let's just let's kick it off like right at the start here. How did you get into hockey equipment? Like, when did you decide that this is something that you wanted to pursue as a career?
I didn't really decide it until I was 18. I grew up in Wichita, Kansas, so we have an ECHL team in town, and I've known the equipment manager there, Rizzo, since I was a little kid. And he just reached out to me one day, like seeing if I wanted to come help out, like load the bus. And I said, yeah. And that evolved into me working game nights and then eventually there every single day at the rink.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So going into it, like, I mean, you kind of fell into it, and like you were around it, and then you kind of were like, okay, this is awesome.
Yeah. I never really thought about the fact that I could do this as like a kid. So, like, it wasn't really something that was on my radar that I could do as a career. But now that like I'm older, I can't see myself doing anything else. And this is all I've done since I got out of high school. So
Awesome.
like I it's awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess jumping into it a little bit further here, Luke. What about the day-to-day schedule? You know, for both game days and practice days. I mean, because it's a little bit different for you guys down in the USHL and in those lower leagues. But I don't think I don't think too many of our viewers are probably aware of that quite yet.
Yeah, it's not like the NHL, it's just me on staff. Like we have me and our athletic trainer. We don't have a training staff of like 10 people like in the NHL, so it's a lot of work. Typical game day, I get to the rink and I move our bags, like whether it's for a road game or a home game, I'll go set them up in our locker room and for a road game, load the bus and just get everything set up. I'm there at about 5 in the morning, like doing that on a game day, just so because I want to like have our room to an NHL standard or as close as I can get with just me. So I like to get there early so that way I can just take my time, listen to some music, and then get everything looking good for the boys.
Yeah, and I guess just to kind of piggyback off of that, first of all, wow, like 5 a.m. and I know that's pretty much how all equipment managers are, but you guys seeing that early in the morning, pretty much every day throughout the season is just insane. But good on you guys, of course. But more so back to like the road games and whatnot. Uh, when you don't have, a team of 4 or 5 guys, how would you describe the process of tearing down, setting up, and how long it takes? Because like we've seen like inside videos of the NHL teams and their equipment staff, and they seem to have it, have a system and have it down to a fine science. But when you're on your own, like I can't imagine it's that much. It's as simple as how they have it.
Yeah, it depends on where we're going. If we're going on like a day trip to Waterloo or Omaha, it's very different than if we're leaving a day or two early and going to a Muskegon or a Youngstown. And that's just due to the fact that like when we're going to Waterloo or Omaha, we're getting there 2-3 hours before puck drop. So the guys just kind of grab their bags off the bus and then just go unpack them into the locker room. And then I'll set up everything else like the skate sharpener, the tape, the glove dryers, just things like that. So that way, like the other things can be ready for them and they don't need to worry about that stuff. But like a Youngstown or a Muskegon, it depends on like building availability. Like Youngstown, we were able to move into the visiting locker room a couple weeks ago, right when we got there. But in Muskegon, due to some other bookings of the arena, we couldn't do that. So I wasn't able to move in right away. So we unloaded into a storage area, and then I went back in the morning and then moved all the bags to the locker room.
So it's more so like understood by the players that they've got to help you out too
Yeah,
and whatnot. Like, in the pros, of course, it's pretty much well known that they have other guys carrying their bags for them, but these guys on the Buccaneers and pretty much all throughout the USHL, like it's their responsibility to take their bags off the bus and whatnot.
yeah, it's especially like like I if I could I would, but it's just not feasible with how much time we get to the rink with. But they're really good about helping out, and whenever guys aren't playing, they're so good about helping pack up. Like it's a really good group of kids to have, help me and our athletic trainer Nick out with packing and loading.
You talked about like you want to do your best to hold your locker room and like you're setting like NHL standards like that, and it's like we all know the equipment manager position. It's like it's almost like a brotherhood, like just like everything else in hockey. Is there like equipment managers from higher level leagues or even across the USHL that you kind of talk to, trade secrets and like you kind of look to for advice or just trying to like move you up to that next level?
Yeah, always. There's a couple of guys that I was really fortunate to get to work with in the ECHL when I was an assistant there, who are in the NHL now.
Oh,
So I can always reach out to them if I need advice. Um, Other guys in the USHL from the last couple of years who have moved up to better leagues, like I know that they're always there for me. And then we have the Iowa Wild just across town, and their equipment manager Shaky and their assistant equipment manager Brandon are amazing. They practice at our game rink, so getting to see them all the time is awesome, and it's really nice to be able to just like kind of pick their brains and just learn from them because Shaky's been doing this a long time, and he's an awesome guy to be able to learn from on a daily basis.
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's very cool, and we figured as much, but knowing that, when you hear it firsthand that you do have that close relationship with guys like that, it's well, like Zach said, with the camaraderie and the hockey community, it's good to know that plays a part with you guys in the equipment side of the game as well. So,
Yeah.
good stuff all around. And I guess just to get back to the players a little bit. Now, obviously, we had a fun conversation with Brendan Perlini about some other NHL guys that he was close with and that he played with. And he had some great stories on just how crazy some of these guys are, and a lot of them are well known just from what we see on social media and in interviews and whatnot. But how about at the USHL level with the Bucks? Are there any crazy requests that you've ever received? Obviously, they probably know their place and are not gonna be as picky as like a Duncan Keith to you. But if there's anything or a few things that you might that might immediately come to mind, we would love to hear it.
There's nothing really too out of the ordinary. They know the level that they're at. They know it's not the NHL, so we don't have unlimited resources pretty much. But we've had a couple like weird requests this year. One kid asked me for he's like, Luke, I need new elbow pads. Like I don't need them, but I want them. And he was like, but like if you can't find this pair, don't get me any. So I've been looking for a pair of Bauer 1X Lite elbow pads for like a month for this kid. Like, I don't even know if he was in middle school when they came out. So it's like stuff like that kind of makes you laugh. Last year we had a kid ask me for a Bauer 4500. He was in '03, had played over 200 junior hockey games. So he was and a lot of them were in the North American League. So he thought he's like, Luke, I'm gritty enough, I can wear this helmet.
Oh, that I mean, I don't think there are any 4,500 helmets in the USHL. Is there something against it? Like could he do that if he found one and sprayed it your colors or whatnot? Or like is there anything that says you can't wear a 4,500 in the USHL?
No, there's nothing that explicitly says you can't. Like all your helmets just have to be Bauer.
Okay.
Uh, but he was it's hard to find them now since they're out of
Right.
production. So
Right. Yeah.
I couldn't find him a new blue one to match our colors. So, but there's nothing that explicitly says you can't. I know a lot of the on ice officials in the league still wear it. So, but yeah, no, if the team can find it in that color, there's nothing saying that they can't wear it.
I'm gritty enough to wear one. That's amazing. Oh, love to hear that. But what about like from a little bit more granular things? Like, you hear stories in the NHL about like Sidney Crosby gets his skate sharpened after warm-ups, after the first period, after the second period. And it adds up to like 5 or 6 times a day. Are any guys in on the Bucks along those lines, or do they have you doing like certain things that maybe play into their game day routines, not necessarily equipment wise, but their game day routines?
Um, there's no one that gets their skates sharpened that much. Like the most often for us, I would think is every game day. We have a couple of kids who do it every game day. One of our goalies only gets his done if he starts that day. Um, but for the most part, like our guys are pretty simple to deal with. There's really nothing that like any of them do that's out of the ordinary, I would say. We have one kid who, if he's just like not feeling it, like he uses a couple of different types of sticks. If he's not really feeling one, he'll ask me for a new one. And he actually did that earlier this season. And then first shift of the second period using his brand new stick because the one he was using in the first period just wasn't working out for him. Scores a goal like 15 seconds in that ends up on the Sports Center top 10 that night.
Oh my
Wow.
god.
Yeah. So he's very particular about his sticks, and he sometimes he spray paints them, sometimes he doesn't. So if he wants a new one, typically he'll text me in the morning. He's like, Luke, can you get me a stick prepped? And he's like, don't cut it or cut it to this height and then spray paint it white, black. Don't spray paint it. Don't spray paint over the CCM logos. Just he changes things up a lot, even with his tape job, and it's just fun to see what he does every day.
Yeah, those sound like some pretty, maybe not crazy, but
Yeah,
along the lines of crazy
yeah,
requests. So that's funny. At least you
yeah.
got somebody like that who's keeping you on your edges.
Oh yeah.
When you get requests like that, or it's like, oh, I need a new stick and all that, like how stressful can like it get for like trying to acquire it and get it ready, or do you guys carry a decent amount on hand where it's not too bad of a situation when it comes down to the request?
Yeah, no, we have a really good amount of extra sticks in our room, so we we get like all the players use customs, and then they'll try each other's sticks, like or they'll use someone who's no longer with us sticks. But the kid that I had mentioned, Ben Keevan, he's actually sponsored by CCM Hockey, so
Oh,
he
so
he's got he gets whatever he wants from them, and I've got pretty much a stick bag just for him.
Has there been any good stories of like, trying to scramble to find something like last minute, like game day, something like that?
Not really. Like one of our guys had asked me for like a tinted visor, and I knew the pro shop in town didn't have any. The Wild were on the road, so and I didn't have any because that's you need like a special form for one in the USHL, and I had to like call a guy that I have played like men's league with that I know has like a few of them, and so I just bought a new one from him for the kid. So just like a smoke tinted visor for a kid, like it was pretty easy though because it was a Sunday game and there was men's league going on. So
Oh, perfect. Yeah.
yeah,
How about in game? Like, um, are there any stories, examples you can share of a time when something critical happened, like right in the middle of the second period or something, and you had to act quickly, like where you had to go back into the room and fix a rivet or sharpen an edge, like um in Zach asked about the stress of finding things and ordering things, but how about when it's a little bit more on the fly? Like how often does it happen? And what are some examples that you might be able to share with us that you powered through?
yeah, we actually had a kind of interesting one this past weekend. We were at home against Dubuque, and one of our defensemen took a puck off the visor and it broke his visor. So just luckily in the USHL we use the clip-on visors. So they just snap into place. You don't have to unscrew the whole thing and replace it like that. But our backup goalie, because goalies are required to wear helmets on the bench, but it doesn't say a goalie helmet. So our backup goalie was actually just wearing a player helmet on the bench. So it was pretty. He just takes off his helmet and hands me his visor from his helmet to put on the other kid's helmet, and he didn't miss a beat. So our backup goalie was thinking on his toes there, and that's part of the reason why I'm happy that they wear helmets on the bench. Is so like we always have access to extra visors because it's not the first time that that's happened to me in this league. So
So in terms of how often it happens, what would you say? Like once a weekend, like a few times a month? I know you guys usually play
yeah,
like two or three a weekend.
yeah.
How often are you under some pressure and really have to act quickly?
Um, Not too often. I can only think of a couple instances this season. We had a kid we played in the American Cup up in Rochester against the Green Bay Gamblers, and we had a kid whose holder broke on his skate. So he's an affiliate player. So he was just up with us for that weekend, and we don't have a travel riveter. The facility we were in didn't have a travel riveter, and the gamblers don't travel with a riveter. So I was under a lot of pressure there to just get his skate blade back in because he was playing with some of our top guys, and I just fortunately was able to get the blade stuck enough into his holder that he was able to go back out there and couldn't tell a difference.
Wow. Yeah,
So
that's awesome.
yeah, it was a little nervous when he would like go into the corners or get hit or something along
Oh
the boards.
yeah, yeah.
I was kind of scared that it was gonna fall out, but luckily we didn't have any issues across the weekend. And once we got to Muskegon after that, I was able to get it fixed for him.
Yeah, I mean, I just I can't imagine because, for a number of reasons, but like just how suddenly some of that stuff happens and you guys have to just boom, like move right into gear and I mean, like there's coaches that there's obviously the players who are like come on, like we need this guy back out there. So Just can't say enough of the amazing work that you guys do and how quickly you're able to pull it off. But one other thing I wanted to get circle back to that Zach had brought up a little bit, and you had mentioned about like the ordering and how some players might have sponsorship deals or whatever, so they're already covered. But my understanding was at least a number of years ago, maybe things might be different now, but my understanding was like most of the ordering like for equipment took place before the season, and a lot of that was whatever you had was what you had, unless it was an emergency situation or whatever. And obviously it varies by team. Like some owners invest a little bit more into equipment than others might in the USHL. But what's it like for you guys? Like, does the majority of ordering happen in the beginning of the season? Are you free to order some more stuff later on if need be? I guess just take us through that process.
Yeah, at the start of every year, like right after our main camp in the summer, every player who makes training camp gets an order form from me sent to them, and they fill it out with what gear they want, what sticks they want, what protective they need, their skate specs, and then I get all that ordered for them. And then if there's something that they need throughout the season, I will order it for them too. Like we do a lot of mid-season stuff here in Des Moines. Like I know we just got like 3 other pairs of skates delivered yesterday. So those kids will be getting into those when we get back from our Christmas break here. But it depends on like what it is and sometimes even who it is. Like if it's a fringe guy who we're not like 100% sure, we'll get him like sticks and skates and stuff. But if he's like, hey, I want like a new pair of elbow pads, I'll try to push that kind of back as far as I can until like I know he's for sure gonna be here for the long haul.
Especially if it's those Vapor 1X elbow pads,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, yeah. No, awesome. Okay, yeah. So there is quite a bit of
Yeah.
flexibility in that case with you
Yeah.
guys. That's good. I think that really good to have some light shed on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
When Yeah, when you're doing this ordering and stuff too, like I know it's big in the NHL and all that kind of stuff, and it's probably a little bit different for your league and stuff like that. But are your stick builds and stuff like that, are they as advertised? Do you get a lot of like requests for certain graphics, stuff like that, or is it kind of like, hey, you want this stick, this is what you get. You gotta get the graphic too.
Yeah, it's a lot of it is the same graphic. Just because Bauer wants us to advertise, show that the guys are using that stick. And we don't have as many quite options as the NHL. There's 5 sticks that we can order for our guys, but we do have a few guys who have sticks that aren't the model that they show. One guy, he's making a transition right now from the Hyperlight 2 to the 2N Pro. And then Ben Keevan uses um, the Ripcord Trigger 7, and then sometimes he'll be in a Jetspeed FT5. But both of his are dressed as the FT7 Pro.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah.
So like,
The Bauer guy you mentioned who's kind of playing around with the 2N Pro now. Did he request that or how did? Oh, okay, cool.
yeah, that was
Interesting.
you because Benjamin actually got one when he was like here at the start of the year. He showed up with one, and so a lot of the guys were kind of trying it during practice, and a couple of them really liked it. So they had changed their stick specs from the start of the year to that because because like I said, Ben's a guy that likes to play around with his stuff and find stuff that works for him. And that was one thing that didn't quite work for him, but a lot of other guys really liked. So they've made the switch to that.
So do you know has that been happening um like for the majority of time? Like how long has that been happening for? Is that just recently, like only a few years old, where now even USHL players are able to request certain Bauer builds and they'll do it for them and they'll just dress them up as, the Hyperlight 2 or the Nexus Tracer, whatever. But again, and I could be completely wrong, but like and I know like a decade ago the USHL was still partnered with CCM. But my understanding was the sticks were just like the retail builds or whatever. But if you can, share some and any insight of when you knew that first started happening, we sure would love to know.
Yeah, it's been going on for at least as long as I've been here. I joined mid-season 2 years ago, and there was a couple of kids who were using the ultrasonic stick, but one of them was dressed as a hyperlight and one was dressed as a sync. So for at the very least as long as I've been here, so 3 years, this has been going on with guys getting gear that looks different than what it actually is.
Do any guys, because like we see this a lot in the NHL where guys are some NHL guys are pretty particular about the graphics that they're using. Obviously, you would think that it's just okay if you really like the Supreme 1S graphic, well, why don't you just use the, I'm sorry. If you really like, this specific build, like why are you so particular with the Supreme 1S graphic? Why don't you just use that build in whatever the new graphic is? Are any guys on the Bucks using some older graphics now, and have they specifically mentioned to you like I need this old look. Like I'm just superstitious. It's what I love. Like I get distracted if I look down, I see something different. If it doesn't have to be this year, if there's any, like I guess you can reference those guys you just mentioned. Using those old builds. Like if there were guys still using older graphics, in any season, we sure would love to know why. Well, what their reason was for it.
We haven't had anyone that's using like an older graphic. Some guys just we don't really get the option to order those older graphics at this level, but because Bauer wants us to be advertising their newest sticks. So
Right.
like guys don't really ask for that type of stuff just because of the league deal that we have.
Right. Are there any examples of maybe some guys? Because some guys are with you guys are with the team for 2 or 3 years at least. Have any guys like brought some of their extra older sticks from years past, or not really?
Yeah, we had a kid at the start of the year. He was using the sync for the last couple of years, but then he made the switch to the Hyperlight this year, but he didn't make that until just a couple of weeks ago. So he showed back up with all of his syncs from the last 2 seasons that he had, like
Yeah.
still not broken, and he used those until they ran out just because he that's what he was used to and didn't want to switch to his new ones until he had gone through all of those.
There we go. Yeah, that's awesome. So it does
Yeah,
happen a little
yeah.
bit there. Yeah.
He's and he also changed the color of it too. So it's he went from blue to red, and I like giving the guys the option of, you know, if you want blue sticks, you can have blue sticks. If you want red sticks, you can have red sticks because they're both in our colors, and I think they both look really good out there on the ice.
Yeah, yeah, we see that quite a bit in the NHL.
Yeah,
Well, I shouldn't say quite a bit, but at least for a few teams, like I know the Blues have some guys who might be using blue graphics, and others might be using yellow, or gold, whatever. But yeah, no, that's awesome. That's good that they have the choice between those two. Um, Okay, one thing I definitely wanted to get into and obviously before we wrap it up here, but you've got a pretty good story about the React 150 and React 155 helmets from Bauer. And we've known that this is a thing it's been a thing for the last couple of years now, where a lot of these manufacturers are making helmets that look exactly the same, on the that look exactly the same as a previous model. First of all, what can you tell us in terms of differences, if any, between a React 150 and a React 155 helmet? And when you're done with that, get into that. Feel free to jump right into that story that you have about two of your guys, and what they said to you.
Yeah, so I don't like in the USHL, our helmets are a little bit different than at the NHL level. We just have more Bauer branding on our helmets, again, due to their sponsorship of the league. So the really only way to tell the difference without looking at the liner on the inside of the helmet is if there's a Bauer B on the back of the helmet. Um, like if you look at USHL teams, you'll see a few of them have guys in the 155, but all of my guys are in the 150 right now. Um, but aesthetically, that's the only difference you can see at the USHL level. And that you won't even be able to see that at the NHL level because they don't have that branding there.
Right, we've learned that the hard way for
Oh
sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So this year we had a few guys off playing in different international tournaments, and we had two of them at one of them this summer who were wearing the React 155, and they had reached out to me, and it was at like 1 in the morning, and they were like, "Luke, what helmets did you order for this year?" I was like, "The React 150." And they're like, "Good. We're wearing the 155, and we do not like it." They And like it wouldn't have mattered if I had ordered the 155 because I still had a few 150s laying around from like years past that if a guy wanted one, I would have given him one. So like those two guys, they would have gotten them regardless. But like they wanted to make sure that I had ordered the old helmet just because they weren't as comfortable with the new one because they like it is a big change on the liner. Like it's a lot harder than the 155 is or the 150 is. It's which is a bit softer.
Interesting. Yeah, and you said how, in the NHL, there really is no way to distinguish between the two. And yeah, like the logo in the because the logo in the back is not visible where it would be on like the retail 155. So yeah, we're just it's a guessing game for us pretty much. We did have some inside sources let us know, a few guys who are confirmed in the 155. I believe one of them was for sure Andre Palat in New Jersey, and I believe Curtis Lazar as well off the top of my head. But it's just nuts trying to pick them apart. Like the React 85, had some noticeable differences, in the shell up top. But I remember when the 155, was first released, I was like, geez, like how are we supposed to tell the difference? And then it turns out that you can.
Yeah.
You didn't have anybody even 2 years ago wearing the 85, did you? Or has it's been 150 pretty much throughout?
Oh, we had a couple guys in different helmets last year. We had one guy who was in actually the 95.
Oh,
Um,
okay, yeah.
yeah. And then we had one kid who started the year out in the Hyperlight. So,
Ah.
that was a choice that the guys kind of gave him a little, like, they gave it to him a little bit forced,
Yeah.
but he liked it. And then he actually made the switch about halfway through the year to the 150. So it depends on what they like and what they ask me for because I'll, like I said, I'll try to, make any request that they have happen.
Was it was it simply like the reason why whoever that was trying out the Hyperlight helmet, was everybody giving it to him simply because they thought just the Hyperlight helmet didn't pass the mirror test, or what was the reason?
Yeah, it's that, and it's I think you got to have kind of a specific shaped head to wear it. I know like a lot of that was what we were wearing my first year, and a lot of the guys didn't like it. So I ordered new helmets about halfway through the season there too. So just because a lot of guys didn't like it, they said it like hurt their head. They said it didn't fit, and a few guys stayed with it who really did like it. But it's all player preference. Like everyone's head is different. Not every helmet's gonna fit the same two guys the same way. So
Right. Yeah. And I know, I believe it was last year, or maybe even the year before, Kirill Marchenko on the in Columbus. He was on a bit of a run with it, but then he eventually switched out of it too. So I guess the feeling is mutual amongst USHL guys and NHL guys. So so no surprise there. Um, but yeah, and I guess another thing too to circle back on that we just kind of touched on a little bit here, but the NIL deals, and they're here, and they're not going away, and obviously that it's going to have implications on the guys that you're working with, and you already mentioned how one of your guys has a partnership with CCM, and he's using their sticks and their skates. Um, and obviously we're aware of um, certain things that the AHL has in place in terms of what they allow, in terms of their partnership with CCM. What's it like from the USHL perspective? Like, are if what happens if you have like five guys with an NIL deal, or if there aren't any guys with an NIL deal, are there any exemptions that are allowed? That sort of thing. Take it away. We'd love to know.
yeah, the only way that you cannot use Bauer gear in the league is having an NIL deal with another company.
Okay.
And if you do have that NIL, the brand logos just have to be covered up. So if you're using CCM sticks, they can't say CCM on them. If you're using Warrior sticks or True sticks, they can't say Warrior or True. But skates, you can use, any player can use whatever they want. So
Right.
but sticks are really the big thing in the USHL that the NIL deals affect, and it's it's pretty straightforward. We can only have a certain number of players and can't go over that. So just to preserve that contract with Bauer, and most of our guys use Bauer stuff anyway. Like
Right.
most of the guys we have coming up as affiliate players, they come up with Bauer stuff, so
Yeah.
it's not too big of a change.
Yeah, so it's not really affecting you guys too much just yet. I mean, right? I mean, what potentially could change and all that with the whole changing of the rules of like junior college and all that change that's happening right now might be down the line, but right now it's just you're still Bauer works.
Yeah, it's still business as usual unless a kid signs a contract with CCM and then 30 CCM sticks and two pairs of CCM skates show up on my doorstep.
No, but it's interesting because and I guess I just haven't seen enough photos or enough clips from you guys and other USHL teams. When you had first mentioned the or when I figured, because obviously there's it's known that a lot of guys, or a few guys, do have NIL deals. I wasn't aware that their sticks, that the logos had to be covered up from non-Bauers. So but I at the same time it definitely does make sense. Now, how picky are they when it comes to it? Like, can like your CCM guy, like the CCM logo is obviously, spray painted over, I'm assuming, but like is ribcore, trigger visible? How does um how much like do they give you any sort of direction in terms of making those appropriate?
Yeah, it's really just the CCM logo that's the big thing for us having to deal with. Just making sure like those are all covered on the sticks that we're issuing to the players, and sometimes the guys will like try to get away with using it without covering it up, and sometimes it slips past. You know, Ben has kind of he actually just won gold at the World Junior A Challenge with Team USA. So he was playing without CCM covered there. So, but he plays with CCM covered all the time. So it also just kind of depends on where they're at, because that team was full of USHL players. The whole staff was from the USHL, but it's got different rules than we have here in league play.
Right. So like every game before warm-ups, are you like scanning the guy when you're at the bench? Like are you like scanning the guys and being like just making sure like no CCM or True or Warrior logos sneak by and then that way you can get them taken care of before the actual game starts?
Not really. Like our guys are really good about it. Like
Right.
Keith is our only player who has an NIL deal, and he's really good about it. The thing I'm scanning for is to make sure everyone wears their neck guards, because
Oh, right.
sometimes some guys will forget to put them on. But if I notice they've got them on, I run back to their locker and just grab it for them and be like, "Hey, like you got to put this on." Like, so that's still something that our guys are learning about, is that.
And it's I take it that they are mandatory now in
Yeah,
the USHL. Oh, okay.
yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a change that the league made going into the season this year. Every player has to wear one, so all the on ice officials have to wear them too. So just to kind of set that standard for the kids.
Now, do they? So I'm always just curious about this because, like, when I was finishing up my competitive hockey career, like they tried mandating the rule in Illinois high school hockey, you had to wear a neck guard, but they never said what a neck guard was. Do they have specific like? Do they have to be like the Velcro ones? Can it be like the built-in on the compression shirt type thing? Like, do they like specifically say like what a neck guard is?
Not really. Most of our guys wear the like War Road T-shirts. They're a uh, they're a big partner of the USHL. A lot of teams have uh, a lot of their guys in War Road shirts, and War Road has a lot of players signed to NIL deals with them. So you see, if you go to War Road's Instagram page, you see a lot of advertising from USHL teams and using USHL players. So a lot of our guys are in those. We have a lot of guys just in the Bauer ones because that's our league equipment provider. So we have it. Really, it just depends on what every guy wants. We have a couple guys in CCM ones. We have guys that have cut the necks off of their War Road shirts and just wear the neck guard because they like that as opposed to the standalone Bauer ones.
Yeah, yeah,
So
that was one thing I always laugh because they're like, well, what do you consider a neck guard? Like, what exactly is it? So it's kind of cool that it's still going on like that's TJ Oshie's company, correct?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's really cool what they do with that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we've obviously touched on a lot in terms of equipment and what your day to days are like, and obviously what the season's like. How about the off season for you? I mean, I know you're obviously hunkered down and busy from September, through April, and then if you guys go on a playoff run, you've got an extra month or two that you're tied down, but once the end of June, July hits, what's it like for you? Is it just a lot of laying back and resting, or well, how do you like to spend your time, or what are your obligations with the team?
Yeah, we're pretty easy during the summer. We have two camps that I have to work. We have our main camp for players who are trying out for the team for the upcoming season. So we'll make cuts from that. That'll go into our training camp before the season, just before that starts. And then we have a futures camp, which is kids from who are just about to be junior eligible. So it'll be like 2012 to 2009 birth years. Excuse me. Sorry. Yeah, we gotta just be there for those, getting all the kids their jerseys, apparel, any repairs, sharpenings, stuff like that. And then it's a lot of just hanging out back in my hometown of Wichita, Kansas, and with all my friends and family back there, just because don't get to see them during the season. So just enjoy that time with them. And then going to a big equipment manager and athletic trainer conference every summer for hockey.
Is that P-Hats?
Oh yeah, I go to P Hats
Yeah,
every year,
nice.
so
Yeah.
it's a good time.
Awesome. Yeah. Oh, and yet you mentioned obviously spending time with your family in the summertime. Um, do you don't ever really get to go back home to Wichita during the season? Maybe around the holidays, or how does that work?
Yeah, we're really fortunate in the USHL. We get a 10-day Christmas break, so I'm actually back home in Kansas right now. So
Nice.
it's nice to just kind of be able to spend that time away from hockey and away from the rink and just have that reset in the middle of the season to come back and just be ready to hit the ground running for the second half.
That's awesome.
Yeah, good stuff, man. Well, hey, we've kept you long enough. This was a great conversation, of course. We might even have you on again later on, because that's the beauty of the hockey world, the equipment world. Things keep changing. New gear keeps popping up
Oh yeah,
every other week, it seems like. So I'm sure you'll have some additional stories and gear tidbits to share with us within several months, within a few years. So we'll hope to have you on at some point again. But can't thank you enough for jumping on with us. We're always rooting for you, and we will. I'm sure we'll be keeping in touch. I'll be hitting you up with some questions about some certain Bauer gear or whatever. But we really do appreciate it, and we wish you the best the rest of the season.
thank you guys. I appreciate that.
You got it.